Don't make fun of my hair. It doesn't get long, it gets big. I'm trying to grow it out a little before I lose that option. Anyway, hey everybody! It's the spookiest time of the year, and as states have begun lifting all restrictions put in place to stop the spread of disease, you now have the potential of death literally knocking at your door asking for candy at the end of the month. Well, ain't that just the most festive thing you ever heard? In the spirit of the season, I've dressed up as all my parents' failures given physical form. So things have changed. Things are in fact still in the process of changing as I speak, about to come to a head. Life as we know it may never be the same after everything that's come to pass, with even more surprises likely waiting up ahead. I have a green screen now, for instance, which means I'm no longer confined to having you squint at my background to see the same funny images on my monitor unless I don't feel like setting this up again. Which means I can put anything I want back there. Anything I want. Anything. I can even just make you look at this all day. But even with me being one of those whose jobs made them increasingly busier as a result of current events, I feel like I had to say my piece in light of the things that are happening. Again, most of you are probably aware by now of the greatest event of our time, the culmination of this year's Ales as we approach its climax. Back and forth arguing between figures who are bound to become or stay a leader of our generation. Lies, manipulation, abuse of power, refusal of accountability, death. It all comes down to this. I'm speaking, of course, about Among Us drama. Some historic stuff in the making. Just amazing. That's right, the title of this video actually refers to people refusing to vote in Among Us. What? You thought I had the integrity not to clickbait? What, are you stupid? You think a guy who puts his face on every thumbnail is above that? Just kidding. We'll cover some lowbrow inconsequential stuff later, and honestly, given my schedule, this particular instance has probably already resolved itself by now. I mean, I like to keep up with trends, I play the game and all, and I obviously know that the drama exists because I'm a f***ing loser, but I'm just not generally invested enough in streamers or really any social media personalities at the moment to give them any meaningful mental real estate.
How can there be so much drama around this f***ing game? What are you guys even all complaining about right now?
If that upset you though, then good. That's the kind of energy you should be bringing to the table at this time. Right now, the responsibilities that have been thrust upon me have caused me to have a vested interest in the legislation and policies that will affect the entire United States of America, as should pretty much all its citizens and everyone else who is affected by them at this point. I mean, just look at the sorry state we Americans have found ourselves in. Our country makes up almost a quarter of the total deaths from COVID-19, is denying human rights, hate groups here are on the rise, and it all comes flowing down from our highest administration. It's embarrassing. If that sentiment isn't something you agree with or just outright deny, then you must be very fortunate. It must be very nice to not have lost or be scared of losing people close to you, to not fear for your own well-being, to not understand how soul-crushing it is to be worried about how you'll make ends meet or stay healthy as we show little to no signs of improvement, to not care that there is a considerable chance the way our daily lives are impeded at present may just be the new normal. It is a privilege to make the claim you are apolitical right now. That is a right reserved for people so extraordinarily wealthy, they won't be meaningfully affected in any of them. Otherwise, you range from being cowardly to secretly an asshole. Oh, with the exception of you. That's right, you, my wonderful viewer. You are very brave, and smart, and beautiful, and all sorts of other adjectives. You, specifically, are absolved of any flaws by virtue of just watching this video, and should know that whatever I say next, even if it sounds like it's referring to you, it is actually about everyone except you. But with that noted, how many dead, dying, and jobless does it take for these people to start getting invested, I wonder? I mean, not even weebs can get away from politics anymore. Just look at their reaction to their virtual streamers being reprimanded after acknowledging the existence of their Taiwanese audience. Granted, this somehow resulted in more racist responses in opposition, hitting Asians as a whole, which, again, I'm splash zone biased, so yeah. Their messaging could use some work being less abrupt and heavy-handed, I guess. Taiwan, free Hong Kong, Tiananmen Square massacre, Uyghur Muslim genocide, I don't know, what else? But I'm getting sidelined. If the debates and town halls weren't the clear signs as to the urgency of our situation in the hands of a leader apathetic to your everyday struggles, I don't know what will convince you. Biden expressed to our commander-in-chief, at least when he got the chance, what so many of us were thinking of him. That he doesn't care, that he doesn't know what he's doing, that with hundreds or thousands being at risk within a short period, he instead allowed hundreds of thousands to die across nearly a year. And not a single ounce of empathy was expressed by Trump, as he instead decided to respond by not only refusing to acknowledge any of the problems or hate groups, again, but also going for low blows, seeing fit to attack the character of his opponent's family. Yes, Trump did this, clearly a man defined by his morals and familial bonds. He also continued making fun of wearing masks, and appropriately enough tested positive for COVID-19 just a couple of days later. Can't make this stuff up. If this was a near-end reveal for a show or movie, it'd be considered cliche writing. But because this is reality, what it means is that this walking lich was actually spewing miasma from his mouth during his tirades, all the while his phylactery, that is the administration, continued collecting the souls of the near 250,000 US citizens dead on our own soil. And even after being hospitalized, having infected more people in the White House than there were in Taiwan, Vietnam, and New Zealand combined, having been pumped with a number of experimental drugs and given treatment that most Americans cannot afford, he still doesn't think it's a big deal. In fact, he continued to mock the situation and double down on it not being a big deal. Yep, 200,000 and counting, not a big deal.
They are dying, that's true. And it is what it is.
But hey, as a first-generation Vietnamese American, I at least get a chuckle on a genetic level hearing America has finally beaten Vietnam. And also scream at the fact the virus is now projected to take about the same amount of American lives in 1 year as Vietnamese lives were taken through democide by the Viet Cong during the entirety of the Vietnam War, if not more. Funny enough, did you know that around half of surveyed Vietnamese Americans were reported to be in support of Trump, with only about 36% favoring Biden? This despite most, including my own parents, being refugees of war and most likely would not have been allowed under the same circumstances today. That's pretty interesting. I suppose being a model immigrant means to show open disdain for any others that don't look like you and have unorthodox beliefs like not wanting to die. I mean, you already made it. Why should you care about anyone else? It's very patriotic thing. Very American. No, ma. But hey, from another perspective, I guess people aligned with a particular set of beliefs could at least say that the libs are getting owned, though. Since, everyone is at the moment.
Oh shit, get owned, Tom! It's so funny! Oh my god, that's so funny! This is a comedy channel!
Anyway, yeah, that's me. Yet another video with some very brave original takes. I understand many of you are already tired of hearing about the state of things, but it cannot be stressed how dire a situation is we are in. Go vote. I get that many of you are unhappy with the selection available, that you feel disenfranchised. Because you are. Voter suppression is happening all across the state, systemic racism is still a present threat, many of us are still unemployed, our electoral system is flawed, and people are continuing to die from the culmination of various colliding issues all at once, for which they do not have the resources to combat even one of. But your vote still matters. Choosing to abstain will only allow the continued potential of an administration which threatens to put progressive legislation, human life, and even environmental sustainability on Earth in jeopardy for generations to come. Which is bad. And to put it plainly, I don't and will never understand the thought process of people who, when given the choice of moving towards progress and harm reduction, instead find it more sensible to throw in the towel and make way for the remaining worst possible option, because not every single one of their demands will immediately be put into effect, as if being put into more difficult circumstances where there are obstacles purposely put in place against your best interests will somehow make it easier to implement changes that suit to benefit you. There is nothing stopping you from voting counter to the option that stands solely to make your quality of life worse and then advocating for continued improvements through that administration. The battle for your civil liberties shouldn't start and end within the span of a single election cycle. I very much support working for or even fighting for a better life. Voting just happens to be a singular component and is one of the easiest ways to bolster your efforts. If more had voted during the primaries or even in 2016, who knows where we might be right now. There was a lot of talk in support for select candidates this year, but when showtime came, where were all the supporters? There was certainly a lot of bravado for it not even being close. Democracy only works if we the people participate. And what exactly is accomplished by making the conscious decision not to vote, especially now after all we've seen? That is the opposite of upholding your ideals. You're showing your ass, admitting you place infinitely more value on the act of complaining than actually accepting the responsibility of participating. And by doing so, you subject yourself and everyone else to the whims of ill-intended groups organized under a banner of regression. Saying your vote is ineffective and that you aren't accountable for any of the potential negative consequences of not doing so is in line with saying masks are virtually ineffective as a preventative measure, even as you're needlessly spreading sickness down to countless others who might suffer due to your negligence. Even if you think you'll be okay, even if you will be, you've decided on showing active disdain towards those disadvantaged. This is the position you've taken. Which again means you are very fortunate, cowardly, or are just an asshole. But hey, it's still a free country. For now. I suppose that's still your prerogative, but if you'd rather not have me, a funny YouTube man, sit here and condescend to you, then all it takes to prove me wrong are the few minutes necessary to fill out a ballot. Plus, the hours it'll take to actually get through the lines of the polling offices. But a few hours compared to another 4 years isn't so bad. And I guess there's also absentee ballots. So I guess you really don't have an excuse here. I'm really curious to test whether or not corporations and secret cabals of shadow pedophiles actually control our country the way people seem to suggest once most of our country's viable voters actually show up. Because otherwise, it looks more to me like a lot of people would just prefer it be that way since they'd feel less responsible. I didn't know what to do for an after credits, so here's some more funny images. Wow. Real funny stuff. If you'd like to suggest a particular image for an upcoming video, please go ahead and throw some my way. You know where to find me. No promises as to whether or not I'll actually use it, though. But that's me. Stay safe out there.